What if I told you that our Norse ancestors had an entire ritual dedicated to powerful female spirits who influenced fate, fertility, and protection? The Dísablót is one of the most significant and overlooked rites in the entirety of the Norse pagan practice. But what do we really know about it? Today we'll dive into the Dísablót, its connection to the Disir, and how it may have been performed. And if you stay to the very end, we'll talk about how modern pagans are resurrecting this practice and making it applicable to the lives in the modern era. Coming up. This video was brought to you by the generous contributions of our patron community. If you would like to show us your support, the link is in the description below. If you enjoy diving into vague historical heathenry and seeing how it relates to modern heathenry, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. The Disir were supernatural female entities in Norse mythology and Norse belief system, often associated with battle and luck, and tied in most cases specifically to family lines. They appear in several sagas and are sometimes linked to Valkyries, Fylgir, and guardian female spirits of particular family lines. In Hervara saga, or Hedrix, we see the Disir connected to battle in foretelling doom or other traumatic events. And in Vigaglum saga, we see the Disir worshipped as deities both in large public rituals and private. But what really made them important enough to have their own blót was that the Disir were related to things like family luck or even the luck of an individual, and they were tied directly to winning in battle and surviving difficult times like war or extremely harsh winters. Have you ever had a dream or a gut feeling that seemed to warn you of impending danger and it turned out to be true? This, our Norse ancestors would have related as a sign or a notification from the Disir. Put it down in the comments and share your story. What did the Dísablót actually look like? We don't really know this. There are some subtle references in the sagas. We have archaeology and then a little bit of folklore that paint enough of a picture for us to sort of piece it together and get an idea. One of the most famous examples we have is in the Yngling saga, where King Edalis holds a Dísablót at Uppsala, and this suggests that it's not always a private family affair, but it can be a large communal event as well. Some key elements of the blót are typical of other blóts too. One would be the communal sacrifice, which are generally livestock, pigs, horses, cows. Of course, modern day we use other things other than livestock in most cases. And after the blót would be a feast in the honor of the Disir, generally of the sacrificed animal, but in modern times it's usually a potluck. The timing is one that we're not really sure of, because some sources say that it might have happened around Veneration in late autumn, all the way through Mother's Night and in through the Yule festival, and others say that it would have happened in February, such as the Dising market in Uppsala in Sweden, which may have actually got its name from the prehistoric Dising or Dísablóts that happened, that eventually evolved into a market and a communal fair. So if you could host a Dísablót, what are some of the communal offerings that you would make in order to honor those female ancestors and spirits? Put that down in the comments. There's an interesting passage in Vigaglum saga that gives us a little bit of insight into just how sacred and private the Dísablót was to the individual family around the entire Norse world. In this saga, a group of travelers, of noblemen, and possibly even a king, stopped at a farmstead looking for lodging and support for the night, and they were turned away because the farmstead was in the midst of Dísablót, and it could not be interrupted. This should show that the emphasis was put on the Dísa, so much so that they could even ignore the law of hospitality when they were in the middle of such a ritual. That shows just how important that was to keep it private and keep it segregated from strangers or influences that they couldn't necessarily understand or control. Many modern Norse pagans also keep their Dísablót into a very sacred, very private ritual without guests, usually only members of the household or close members of a kindred. The Disir were considered to influence the fate and fortune of a household, making their veneration a very important duty for any household leader. Disturbing this ritual could not only be seen as disrespectful, but possibly even dangerous, seeing how it had such a big effect on the family's luck and fortune. What do you think? Should some rituals be kept private and not be shared with the community at large? Put it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like many Norse rituals, Dísablót faced suppression through the spread of Christianity, but elements of it survived in the Scandinavian folk traditions. In Sweden, the Disting market in February likely evolved from the original Dísablót. It maintained its level of significance and importance as a trade fair for the region. Even today, all around Scandinavia, veneration for the ancestors and the spirits of the land still survives in folk traditions, even in Christian households, showing that ancestor veneration and Dísa worship never really went away. What do you think? Do you think ancestor veneration still has a place in modern paganism? So for modern heathens looking to revive the Dísablót, there's a few ways to approach it. The first is just a simple home ritual. In your house, set up a small altar, light some candles, leave an offering to the Dísa, say some kind words, and speak to them as if they were in the room. Recite a dedication to your female ancestors, maybe even write a poem and ask them for their guidance and their protection and their wisdom in your daily life. Maybe even share a feast in their honor and thank them publicly for their role in your upbringing, your life, and the decisions that you make. What would Grandma do? You could have a larger kindred gathering like we have here. Not everybody at our Dísablót is a member of our blood family in our line, but they all have women in their line, and they're all a member of our kindred. And you can do this like any seasonal celebrations, and you can share stories and songs, or just have a ritual and talk about your ancestors and talk about the female spirits that have affected you in the way you grew up and the important decisions that you make in your life. Sacrifices today don't need to involve blood. They certainly can, but they don't need to. They can be sacrificed wooden tokens, flowers, jewelry, mead, milk, or anything that would be of value to a living female or an ancestor spirit. We tend to say some kind words and offer a rose to the fire, because what woman doesn't like flowers? The Dísablót was a vital part of Norse society, honoring female spirits, ancestors, land spirits, and even the female goddesses. They honored these powerful spirits because they could shape the fate, the luck, and the fortunes of men and women alike, and entire family lines at the same time. While the details of this blót are scarce, the themes of sacrifice, feasting, honor, and kinship thrive and live on in the folk traditions and the practices of modern pagans even today. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like, and hey, share it with your friends who might also find some use in it. If you like this kind of video, let me know and we'll put together some more. Or if you want a guide on how to do a Dísablót, I can do that for you too. In the meantime, if anybody tells you that Dísablót is an antique technique that nobody ever does anymore, you tell them to mind their own practice. Thor Vigi, my friends.